Alright, so it's old school versus new school with the $399 GoPro Hero 13 Black versus the $349 DJI Osmo Action 5. And for the last, 2 weeks, I've taken them pretty much everywhere with me to figure out who is the better action camera. I'm Becca, welcome back to my channel where we take tech outside. Let's get into it. Let's start with the GoPro. This year, we didn't see a ton of changes under the hood, but instead they brought a large focus to lenses. So there's a new set of NDs that come in a cute little case, an updated max lens mod, now called the ultra wide lens, an anamorphic lens mod, and the macro lens mod. And all of these lenses are now automatically detected by the camera, allowing the camera to adjust settings automatically when you put them on. And my only note for all of these lenses is why is the blue alignment dot on the inside of the mods and the camera? You could barely see this dot when you get the mod close to the camera. Just put it on the outside. Two lenses in particular though stand out to me. It's the $130 macro and the $130 anamorphic. This macro lens can focus on subjects as close as 4.33 inches or 11 centimeters away from the sensor, which I find a bit weak if you're gonna call this lens a macro. Like, here's the Pixel 9 Pro's macro lens versus the GoPro's macro lens mod. You simply don't get that larger than life effect with the GoPro because you can't focus close enough. But what I think is more important about this mod is that you get a little bit of depth of field. And this is the first time on a GoPro that I've been able to get this sort of look. There is peaking too to help with focusing, which again is a small window of 4.33 inches to 2.46 feet. That's really only about this far, but any sort of depth of field on an action camera, I welcome. And then there's the anamorphic lens, which I haven't gotten to use myself, but I do have some footage from GoPro to show you what it looks like. It can natively shoot in a 21:9 aspect ratio and de-squeeze the footage right in cam. This then creates those long lens flares and super cinematic looking video. There are third-party anamorphic lenses for GoPros, and if you're on a budget, it might be best to look at one of those first, but keep in mind, you won't get the native de-squeezing, Hypersmooth won't be tuned for it, and I'm willing to bet a lot of money that the coating on the front of GoPro's version will be more scratch resistant. But almost more importantly than the different looking footage you can get with these lens mods is how different it makes the camera physically look. And it's a bit of a psychological trick, but when you put one of these larger lenses on, it makes you feel like you're using something that isn't all the same GoPros that came before. I love it. I've had the macro lens mod on almost the entire time I've been using it. But is it worth $130? That's for you and your bank account to decide. What you will get, without paying $130 extra, is the new magnetic mounting system, which GoPro is taking a page out of DJI and Insta360's book, whose cameras already have these quick release mounts. It's great, and it makes switching mounts so much quicker and easier. More on quick release mounts and who does it best in the comparison section. Now there are a few internal changes to the Hero 13 this year, but just nothing as flashy as lens mods. First, there's a bigger 1900 milliamp hour battery that is not backwards compatible with any other GoPro. And then since this is the same sensor and processor as the Hero 12, this year is all about GoPro squeezing every last spec that it can out of last year's tech. And the only thing it was able to squeeze was 400 frames per second filming at 720p or 360 frames per second in 900p for 15 seconds, and 120 frames per second at 5.3K for 5 seconds. For me, the star of the show continues to be log footage, though. It provides far more dynamic range and latitude in coloring your footage in post. But that is nothing new. And otherwise, you're getting the same punchy GoPro colors here, with solid performance in great light and underwhelming performance in low light. And lastly, the GPS is back, which is great for folks who want to embed stats onto their footage. It should have never left, but it's back. And now we have Wi-Fi 6, which will mean that your footage will upload to the cloud faster. Okay, but now let's talk about the Osmo Action 5, which I can't believe they're already on the 5th generation of this camera. What the heck? All right, how you doing in there? I know, okay, I'll go quick. I'm sorry, baby girl. This camera isn't getting any flashy lenses or even new ND filters, but internally we are seeing quite the refresh, starting with a new 4nm chip and a 1 and 1.3 inch type sensor that DJI claims can provide up to 13.5 stops of dynamic range. This allows for up to 4K 120 frames per second 10-bit filming. in standard, D-Log-M, or new to the Action 5 HLG color spaces. The log footage is surprisingly easy to work with, and it has a good amount of range. It reminds me a lot of the log footage from the Osmo Pocket 3, which I actually shoot most of my B-roll with these days. And you can use the same LUT that you use for the Pocket 3 here as well. Oh my god, you're gonna touch it? Oh, spooky.
Isn't it beautiful though?
In the Action 5, DJI is also introducing Super Night Mode that the company claims uses AI noise reduction algorithms for cleaner footage in low light. And it's not half bad, but more on that in the comparison section. DJI has also increased the battery size from 1,770 milliamp hours in the Action 4 to 1,950 milliamp hours in the Action 5. But the good news is that these batteries are all backwards and forwards compatible. But there might be a need for that larger battery in the Action 5 because the screen sizes on both the back and the front are larger, and they both get brighter. And if you get the $450 Adventure combo, you'll get this battery case, which holds 3 batteries and can charge them simultaneously, but also can act as a power pack for your camera. So if you load this up with 3 batteries and have a battery in your cam, and then plug this into your camera, it means that you'll have the juice of 4 batteries without having to change anything, which is great for time lapses. The only thing to remember is that this is not waterproof. But to me, the most exciting upgrade here is that there's now 47 gigabytes of built-in storage, which is around 1 hour and 54 minutes of 4K 24 frames per second footage. For some folks, that might not be nearly enough, but of course, there is still a micro SD card slot. And then there's one more new feature that really didn't provide me anything other than joy, but there's a pressure gauge in this camera, meaning that when you submerge it, it'll tell you how deep it is and also how long it's been underwater. You can also set it so that it stops and starts recording when it goes above or below water. That's just super cool. Oh my god, that's so cool. It has a gauge that's showing me like how deep it went and the duration. I'll never use it, but do I want it? Yeah. Okay, but now for the moment you have been waiting for.
This is the main event of the evening.
It's the GoPro Hero 13 Black versus the DJI Osmo Action 5. Now we are cooking. At the top of this video, I said it's old school versus new school. And what I mean by that is that the old schoolers, GoPro, have been producing this camera for many years. And because of that, they have something that is utterly reliable yet mostly unchanged. And DJI, the new schoolers, have come in hot with tons of innovation that have given us many nice to haves. For example, on the DJI, you get this cool digital zooming feature, which you can use on both the front and back screen because they're both touch sensitive, or that built-in pressure gauge that shows you how deep underwater you've gone. Cool innovation, nice to have. But while using the Osmo Action 5, I bumped the ND and some water got under it. And I didn't notice it because it was under the ND, so the rest of the footage I shot had this mark across it. The GoPro's ND filters, which fit much more snug, have never given me this problem. Not to mention, the coating on DJI's lenses always need cleaning, whereas the GoPro lenses wick away water and even do a pretty good job of keeping fingerprints at bay. Utterly reliable and mostly unchanged. Next, DJI might have given us the quick-release magnetic mounting system first. Nice to have, but it can be frustrating to use. You have to mount the camera facing the correct way, or you're fighting magnets. And getting the second latch to close can be difficult. GoPro's is so easy, and you could just put the camera on much quicker. Utterly reliable, and I'm sure it won't change for years. But then when it comes to battery life, the old school is feeling old. The Osmo Action 5 has a lower power consumption chip, and it shows. I consistently got more battery life out of it than the Hero 13. Not to mention that the Osmo charging case is so nice to have. But everything I just said can be learned and adapted to. So, really comes down to image quality. At night, there is no question that the Osmo Action 5 is smoking the GoPro. Even without the Osmo Night Mode on, the GoPro simply can't capture anything in low light. And as for the Super Night Mode on the Osmo, it's really just smoothing out noise and creating richer blacks. I like it, though it does take a bit more time to get filming. And as far as processing goes, again, the DJI smokes the GoPro. The age of the Hero 13's processor is really starting to show, especially when DJI is instantly able to save clips and get shooting again. Plus, the boot time of the Osmo Action 5 is incredibly quick. But when the light is perfect, the competition gets a bit closer.
I like putting my hands on this city bike, not gonna lie.
I shot all of these comparisons in 4K, 20 frames per second, 10-bit. And I kept the color space to the standard setting without adjusting sharpness levels. And in direct sunlight, I noticed that the DJI took a more HDR looking approach. No highlight will ever be overexposed, but the shadows and blacks are kept real dark. It creates a very contrasty image with lots of detail, sometimes to the point of it feeling a bit over-sharpened, especially in tree leaves. Whereas in the GoPro, we'll let the highlights be highlights, and sometimes wash them right out. But the time I noticed a huge difference between these cameras was when I put an ND filter on. And I'm not sure if it's because the Osmo Action 5 has no way of knowing there's an ND filter on it, but my skin tone just went out the window as soon as I started using an ND. And I also noticed more of that HDR look on the Osmo 2. The image just starts to feel artificial. Otherwise, both of these cameras can produce largely the same image. So this year, if you are looking to buy a new action camera, I think it comes down to really two things. Do you want the same old GoPro you've come to know and love with some really cool new lenses that change how it feels to use? Or do you want incredible low light performance? Well, incredible for an action camera with some nice to have features. What I know for sure is that DJI has come very far in 5 years. And if GoPro wants to keep up, they're gonna have to start dramatically changing this lineup, because old school is really only cool for so long before what's new and exciting takes over. I'm Becca. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this, a subscribe would mean the world to me. We are just shy of 100K, which, oh my God, I can't even believe it. It's so cool. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.